Okay, here we go again. Welcome to part 2 of a calm and relaxed talk about the Resident Evil films.
Waiting for a written invitation?
In this video we'll be covering the last 3 of the live-action franchise. These being Afterlife, Retribution, and the final chapter. I will note that I did find in my DVD collection that I actually have Retribution on DVD. That explains why I always remember the end of the film, but never the rest of the film. And also we have Damnation. That being one of the CGI films. So yes, let's talk about the final 3, and is there any redeeming aspect about this franchise? Yes. Holy fuck yes. So if this video does well enough view-wise, I will actually be doing a video for the free animated features, of which I have not yet watched, or at least I haven't rewatched Damnation. Yeah, I'll eventually get around to it. 2010. Resident Evil Afterlife. It is a return for the franchise at the helm, Paul W.S. Anderson, who wrote and directed this sequel. By this stage, I do believe he was married to Miller. So, yes, let's just jump into... Actually, okay, let's read the description again. So, Mother of God is a big paragraph. Okay, so... In a world ravaged by a virus infection, turning its victims into the undead, Alice continues on her journey to find survivors and lead them to safety. Her deadly battle with the Umbrella Corporation reaches new heights, but Alice gets some unexpected help from an old friend. A new lead that promises a safe haven from the undead takes them to Los Angeles, but when they arrive, the city is overrun by thousands of undead, and Alice and her comrades are about to step into a deadly trap. That is a very vague, but also very descriptive summation. My review. I gave this film 2.5 stars. I can't really do a half of a finger, because that looks kind of weird. My quote. Well, this is a pleasant surprise. If you take a shot every time there is an exposition in this film, a double shot if it's double exposition, or something that visually tells you what's happening, but then someone explains it anyway, or if someone has amnesia, then you'll have a good reason not to see these films anymore, because you'll be dead. The film takes the over-the-top action of its predecessors, ramps it to a homage of The Matrix, mixed with lame characters, boring exposition, a solid 20 minutes of nothing after the first 20 minutes of pure, dumb, and really ultimately incomprehensible action, and hardly any zombies. Like, why are there even zombies anymore in this franchise? Like, what's the point? And then bam, you're dead again. At least this film has some point of a point, given Extinction is just empty of anything. By this stage, you're watching this because you want to see dumb shit, or for some reason you care about what's actually going to happen next in Alice's journey. I don't know why the fuck you would. So, I don't understand the exposition and flashbacks, but this was made during the age of Hollywood thinking that audiences are so dumb and not attentive that we must overly explain everything from the films preceding this to the simplest of things that could be told visually. It was not a time to enjoy films, but just to cry and pray the TV was good, and of course it was. Breaking Bad was out. Yet surprisingly, this is oddly a film I'd rewatch for its dumb action, but not for its plot or characters. That's literally it's the ideal film for watching with your phone in your hand. You watch the first 20 minutes, dumb action, beautiful. Go to your phone, oh, plot's happening, I don't care, la 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 la. Oh, action, cool. Or, oh, horror, cool. The horror isn't great, but it leads usually to action scenes. Also, fun note, this is my first time watching this film, despite having seen most of the next one. I couldn't even keep up with the continuity of the releases as a teen. But I guess the exposition does help then. So, that was a really weird way for me to phrase that. I apologize. Pretty much the gist is, I did watch these growing up. I watched the first 3, I didn't watch the 4th one, which this is the 4th one, and I watched the 5th one, obviously, I had on DVD. I had forgotten everything about the 5th one, but anyway, we'll get to that. So of course, watching this one and being like, actually, shit, watching the fifth one and having no continuity for the fourth one didn't really matter. Still, there's really not much to say about Afterlife. It's fine. Like, again, the first 20 minutes is like, oh, remember how we have all those clones of Alice? Yeah, so we're going to use them all to fight the main headquarters in Japan, which is one thing that's, cool, Japan, because, of course, the games are made in Japan. It makes sense. It's a correct, it's like a kind of meta reference and whatever. But, like, there's the absolute factor that is so bizarre to me that the main bad guy who wears the glasses, he has a name. I should probably actually look up his fucking character name, but nobody really cares. I know you don't. What's his name? Wesker. Albert Wesker. So he's played in this film by... Actually, he's played in the next three films by Sean Roberts. However, the character was played by a completely different actor in the previous film. And he's the same dude, blonde hair, the sunglasses, surrounded by a bunch of Japanese guys. And I kind of understood him to be the big boss, but not really. I didn't really know who the big boss was, which is also one thing that this franchise gets so crazy, because then they call Wesker the big boss, but then you've got the guy from the previous film who was a big boss, but he wasn't. He was just a scientist dude, but then in like the last film, it's actually he was the big boss. It's just very confusing. They don't know who the fuck the boss is. It's really annoying. It just goes to show they didn't know what the fuck they were doing with these movies. Anyway, it's obviously like, oh, Wesker's a big bad guy in the movies. Let's just grab him and make him the big bad guy. At least the fans will appreciate that. Nevertheless, he's played by a different guy in the third film, and the fourth film is played by a different actor. It's really disorienting because I'm like, wait, is this the same guy as before? What's going on here? They don't explain it, obviously, because it's a casting choice. They don't really need to. And the first 20 minutes is just Alice and her clones breaking into the facility and just going crazy and killing everyone. It's the same version of Alice. Like, she's in the same BDSM getup. She's got her hair tied up. One version of her can apparently use the mind powers, but then some of the others can't, which is interesting. I don't know what the choice of that was, even though, to be fair, I don't think they should have used the mind powers, because in this one, at least when she uses her mind powers to make all the floor go up and kill all the guys, it looks fucking terrible. But them going around shooting the fuck out of these guys that are all masked, soldiers, who I might also add are clones. They never mention it, but this whole franchise is full of clones. They don't mention it until the next one, at least. But they don't actually mention the fact that all the villains are clones, and that's why they're happy to work for this company during the fucking apocalypse, because they're all clones. That's how they've been programmed to do. Much like all of the Alice clones and whatever. So, yeah. It's pretty much just a 20-minute long fight scene of her killing off all these different versions of her, killing off all these different clones that all have masks on, all to lead to getting to Wesker. Then they chase him out of the building, and he's in a helicopter, blows the whole entire place up, so all the Alice clones are dead. And then the main Alice shows up, and she's on the plane, and he infects her with a thing to kill off her powers, so now she's human. And then they crash into a mountain, which I think was meant to be Fuji because they're in Japan, but that doesn't make sense because geographically it doesn't. So anyway, they crash into a random mountain. Plane blows up, but she's alive, despite the fact that she's now more mortal than she has ever been. So yeah, then she gets a little plane and she flies around the world looking for people and trying to find that boat thingy that has where all the people are. Because, they had all this broadcasts, and they were, like her friends in the previous film were going to Alaska because they'd heard word that there was a safe haven up there, so she goes to Alaska. She finds a bay full of planes and shit, and then she gets attacked by a woman, turns out to be Claire, and Claire's got this robotic thingy on her, but once Alice takes it off, Claire's awake and everything, but she's got amnesia, of course, as you do. And so she doesn't remember what exactly happened. Pretty much what happened is when she and the other people got to that island, they got kidnapped by people from Umbrella, of course, because the whole entire boat thing is a ruse, it's a trap, the whole movie is a fucking trap. So, Alice and Claire fly the fuck out of there, they go to LA, and they crash land on a rooftop of a prison that, like, a really fucking tall-ass prison. This is like The Raid, pretty much, except it's not because that doesn't matter. It's got no relation except for a big tall prison building. But that's not even a prison building. It's a fucking hotel. Anyway, it's an apartment building. But sorry, tall buildings, cops, correlation, and it's just hilarious because they get to the top of this building that's surrounded by zombies, and it's got the only people who are alive that they've ever seen. And it's like 5 people, and they're all stereotypes. You know, you've got. So, and they're all in Hollywood. So, like, one of them is an agent who's a complete prick. One of them is an actor who's, like, he's a decent dude. There's so many shitty characters and other forgettable characters here. There's someone who's been imprisoned because apparently when they got to this prison, he was one of the only survivors, and they were like, he must be a bad guy, let's imprison him. Turns out he's Claire's brother, which was a big plot in the games where Claire's looking for a fucking brother, Chris. And in the movie, Chris just fucking shows up. And he's like the guy from Prison Break, so he's in a prison. Zombies break into the place through the underground because they climb in, that kind of jazz. They now have a thing where a thingy will come out of their mouth and it will expand into 4 thingies and like attack people. They only utilize that the best in the next film where it actually wraps around some people's heads. Cool shit. Not utilized well in this film. And you know how I mentioned the whole them getting into the prison? Yeah, so in that, there's a 20 minutes between the big action scene and them getting into the prison where it's just Alice talking to a fucking video camera. She's vlogging for half the fucking movie. It's so boring. Anyway, zombies attack, they find a way out, people get killed, yada yada yada. This big dude with a fucking hammer comes by, and he, like, wants to kill all of them, obviously, because he's, I guess, just an umbrella goon. You gotta have a mini-boss at some stage. So they're getting out of the showers, which, of course, I love that. There was, like, one scene where, like, Alice was gonna have a shower, but then she heard a noise, and then, oh no, there's a guy perving on her, the guy who was, like, protecting, like, guarding Chris in the fucking prison. And then a zombie just comes out of nowhere and kills him. So, like, if it wasn't for him, she probably could have died. She wasn't, like, even taking her clothes off or anything. She just turned on the fucking tap. And the guy was just a creep. And so, I don't really know what the point of that whole entire part was. He just dies, gets dragged into the ground. But that is set up to use later because while everyone's trying to get into this hole, the fucking big dude comes in. Because what was it that they even did? They fight the big dude. Alice and Claire fight the big guy because he cuts this Asian dude in half, and it's cool. But that's about all he does. And he just kind of slowly trumbles at these girls in like a shower room, and then they end up killing him. She actually shoots him. Alice shoots him in the face with a shotgun full of coins because apparently she's been collecting coins because she could use them as ammo to, like, kill zombies and shit, or big guys like this. I don't know, it's just one of those weird things that they just set up earlier in the film, and they slightly pay off just because she shoots people with guns, with coins. It's kind of hilarious, and it looks really fucking dumb, because it's, like, obviously CGI. I know that some of them get out. It's just, I don't know, it's a bit of a mess. Like, they kind of go to the top of the building, then they go to the bottom of the building, they go back and forth and whatever. I'm pretty sure that them going to the bottom and getting through the sewer system is its own thing. But that's actually probably the end of it, because I'm pretty sure, I know that they go to the top and there's a point where Alice, all the others escape from an elevator to the bottom, and Alice has to jump off of the building and literally, like, fucking abseils down with all these zombies falling around her, and literally as she was about to land on the ground, which would have killed her, I was like, do a roll, that'll save you, and she did a fucking roll, and she didn't get hurt, and then she was able to find the other guys, and I think that's when she got into the elevator with them, and goes to the basement to go into the bathroom, and to get into the hole, which is fine. They get into the hole, some of them get out and to go into this weird sewer system thing, and then the black Hollywood dude, the thing caves in and you hear him a zombie, and he might have died, we don't know. Of course he hasn't actually fucking died. You know that people die if they fucking show you. If they don't show you, then they're clearly still alive. Anyway, our main characters get out, they find their way to the boat. I don't even know how. Like, because the uptight fucking producer guy gets in the plane and flies to the boat, but I don't know how the hell anyone else got to the... I don't know how they got to the boat. Did they get a boat? I think they got onto a boat, and then they went to the boat. So they get into the big ship. You find out you see the black guy getting out of the sewer system. He's fine. That's the last you see of him. They get into the boat. There's no one there. There's a crashed plane, obviously, from the producer dude. They go into it. It's like the computer says that everyone evacuated, but there's still 4,000 people. So like a whole bunch of people had evacuated, but like why? And then you got 4,000 people, but why and how? And they go into these rooms and find out it's actually an umbrella-controlled ship, and the whole thing was a trap. And all these people are like trapped in these little fucking containers, like Minority Report. And so they get out the people that they're looking for, which is like Kmart and just save a few others. But then the two of the vials are full of blood, like all these are bloodied and whatever. So Alice goes through one room, which has the big self-destruct button, which was shown at the start of the film, where the guy blows up the whole facility with a big self-destruct thing. And she sees a plane, and then more big helicopter thing. And so she goes to the next room, and we find out that the villain from the start of the film is still alive and is part mutant. So he's actually still alive, and now the producer guy is there helping him, and they end up having a fight. Chris and Claire come in, and they pretty much have a standoff that apparently is identical to the game, where they actually have this whole standoff, but the extra character isn't this one from the game, but it's Alice. And then the mutant dogs come in, because you got to have mutant dogs. It's actually really fun when they have mutant dogs come in, but it's so dumb at the same time. Anyway, they have their fight, yada yada yada, and they kill off the dogs, they kill off the guy, and they like chop off the producer's arm or some shit, I don't know, they fatally wound him or whatever. And they get out of there, they leave him be. I don't really know what the revelation there is. I don't think there is anything. They leave, and the producer guy's stuck in there, and he turns around, and something's happening, but you don't see it, and maybe he gets killed off by something. They get upstairs, and they hear... No, they get through the end of the second room after the... back to where all the containers are, getting everyone out, up to the top of the ship, and you hear a plane taking off. They run into the room, the helicopter's taken off. And Alice is like, don't worry guys, you gotta see this. And they run up to the top, and the guy is, obviously he's still alive, he's on the helicopter. And I will reference one thing, the bomb earlier exploded in this, like, big explosion, and then, like, sucked everything in, so there's this big gaping hole in Tokyo. Alice had put the bomb on the helicopter before she'd gone into the next room, obviously as a just in case. They didn't show that, it's just had a flashback. He turns around, expecting her to be on the plane, on the helicopter like last time. But then instead he's hearing a beeping sound because he's activated the bomb. And he goes over, opens the thing, and the bomb's there. It's got 5 seconds to go. Blows the whole entire thing up. So he's dead. He's gone. That's the end of him. He's gone from this franchise. And just when you think that they're all safe and they can fly out, they can sail off to freedom, all of Umbrella show up in their helicopters in an armada, led by Jill Valentine, who now has blonde hair and a skin-tight suit. And that's the end of the movie. And that sets up the next movie, which, in my mind, is a fucking masterpiece. So, Afterlife, it's okay. Again, the dumb action scenes is where you want it to be. All the character stuff is boring as hell. They're almost perfecting what their formula should be. But then comes Retribution in 2012. The start of the end. It's, of course, still written and directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. And this is what the description is. The Umbrella Corporation's deadly T-virus continues to ravage the Earth, transforming the global population into legions of flesh-eating undead. The human race's last hope, and only hope, Alice, awakens in the heart of Umbrella's most clandestine operations facility and unveils more of her mysterious past as she delves further into the complex. Without a safe haven, Alice continues to hunt those responsible for the outbreak, a chase that takes her from Tokyo to New York, Washington, D.C., and Moscow, culminating in a mind-blowing revelation that will force her to rethink everything that she once thought to be true. Aided by newfound allies and familiar friends, Alice must fight to survive long enough to escape a hostile world on the brink of oblivion. The countdown has begun. That is such a very long and overdrawn statement. But yes. So I gave this film 3.5 stars. My quote, I met your sister. What? She's not very nice. And I've got a lot to say about this film, so I'm just going to read my review. without breaking down anything. With a film that literally ends with an upcoming onslaught at the White House and a creature flying at the camera, then a snazzy cut to dubstep and credits, we have ourselves the ultimate Resident Evil film. The opening slow-motion rewind that comes second after the end of the previous film, through to the My Name is Alice exposition, and the further 30-second actual fight, maybe 15 seconds too short, as I wasn't able to take the whole spectacle of its real-time action, which was disappointing. In this case, this film is already a banger to begin with. So, to initiate it, the start of the film is literally the end of the previous film. All the helicopters attack, but it's done in slow motion. So you start with Alice in the water, and then she comes out, and suddenly she's shooting a helicopter, and all this shit is going on, until it literally ends with the ending shot of the previous film, with all the helicopters coming in. Then you get the My Name is Alice exposition, and then you get the actual fight scene, and it really is it's just a bit too quick. Again, it's about 10 to 15 seconds too quick. If they had been paced out a bit better, instead of just kept cutting to different things or whatever, you would have been able to experience the whole entire fight, because in slow motion, going rewind, it's a nice spectacle, but if you don't actually see it happen immediately after, in enough succession to understand everything that just happened, it can be very forgettable. It's just, oh, that was neat, let's move on kind of deal. Anyway, then we cut to the slow motion but interesting, and what we later learn is a simulation of a domestic Alice with a cast of familiar faces, including Guy from Mummy and Michelle Rodriguez. Fuck yes, by the way. Zombies invade and a Dawn of the Dead homage ensues. Alice dies, and then cut to the real Alice, who is trapped in an umbrella facility, but escapes part of it due to the villain of the previous film, who literally blew up but is still alive because fuck it, why not? And just keeps going and going. Reintroducing previous dead characters as new clones to fight. Jill Valentine as a tremendously terrible villain and action star, like seriously terrible casting on her. With her, she's so terrible at it, like to the point of she will like go into rooms and start shooting, and she'll just be standing and like bang 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 bang, go do a thingy while I keep going bang 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 bang. It's really, she's terrible. She's fucking atrocious in this movie. Anyway, then we have two Michelle Rodriguez's, another guy from The Mummy, as in the same actor but a clone, same as Michelle Rodriguez, two clones, but now they're evil, so we've got a good guy Michelle Rodriguez and two bad guy versions, one of Michelle Rodriguez and one of Guy from Mummy. I hate saying Guy from Mummy because it makes me think of Brendan Fraser, but it's not, it's the other guy. And no, not the guy that you're thinking of, it's the other guy. The one that people actually like. The Red Queen is back and hasn't aged the CGI day, because they literally reused footage from the previous film and even make a gag about that. You're all going to die down here. Yeah, I've heard that one before. Yeah, thanks for the cliche dialogue. Can we move on? The Japanese girl who was probably from the game is neat. I think she actually is from the game. Is she like Bing Bing? What's her name? She's got a very kind of name that a lot of Americans would laugh at. Lee Bing Bing. Yeah, she plays Ada Wong. She's pretty good. The exposition isn't too dumb and does make sense despite the audience getting the info and then the characters learning the same stuff seconds later, but within a character-to-character context, not character to exposition to the audience kind of context, as in there will be a scene where these two characters are, like, say, Ada Wong and fucking Alice are walking into a room, and it's New York City, because of course there are all these like underground simulations to test the virus out. Hence the whole from Japan to New York to LA to they're just simulations. They're actually in these domes on the ground because that's how big the facility is. It's their like main facility. Nevertheless, they go into a room, and then you have the Red Queen, you have got that digital imprint on the screen, and the Red Queen will say, like, start thingy in thingy, so she'll pretty much just, as a computer, be telling itself to do this, and then something will start happening, like, you'll go back to the characters, they'll be talking, and something will happen, they'll be like, shit, the Red Queen must know we're here, and she must be sending troops, that kind of deal. Like, they're telling each other. Like, I know they can figure it out, and we don't need to know this information, because obviously we've just fucking learned it, but it's like, you could just go one to the other, but like, I don't mind the Red Queen telling us what's going on, but I don't need the characters telling us what's going on. But they're not telling us; they're telling each other, which does make sense. It's still dumb, but it makes sense. Anyway, you've got simulations, Japanese and Russian zombies. My favorite big boy liquor, who is gorgeous. Seriously, the liquor in this one is fucking tremendous. The same dumb and over-the-top action, but with added mini-bosses. Again, the Licker, who appears a few times, which is great. He's never underplayed or never overplayed. And one of the Hammer Bros for good measure. In fact, there are two Hammer Bros that they fight in the New York simulation, which is pretty fun. But in the New York one, they like chase after them. Like they literally they start running and shit because obviously it's a big open area. The Hammer guys just don't seem to be the type of guys that should be running around. Like walking around slowly in slow motion, covered with water, like they were in, like the one guy was in the previous film. That makes sense, but in this one, and it seems appropriate. Makes him seem heavier and bigger and more dominating. These ones just makes it look like a dude in a mask with a giant axes just running around the place. It just doesn't feel appropriate. Nevertheless, this is beautiful chaos. My top three things are the big boy liquor at number one, of course. Michelle Rodriguez breaks her neck as a suburban woman, which is just bizarre, but also is a killer badass who is a infected supervillain. Because dichotomy isn't just a word, people. And number three, Jill Valentine fights with a pointed stick, which is very Donatello vibes. Also, the music in this boss fight between Jill Valentine and Alice is fantastic. It's just amazing, and what this franchise should have been from the third film onwards. So, yeah, this film is wholeheartedly worth watching. It's the only film outside of the first one that I would recommend. Because, but the problem is that, like, and I was telling this to my girlfriend as well, it's like, you can't watch the fifth film, without watching all of them. You have to watch the first one so you get the context of what the fuck's going on. But then you have to see, like, you probably could skip the third one, let's be honest. The third one's fucking shit anyway. Extinction it's just unnecessary. Extinction is unfucking necessary. However, you can easily go first film, second film. Despite the second film being pretty terrible, at least they set up the characters of Jill Valentine and all the rest of that shit. Go to the third film so you have some continuity that continues those characters, despite the fact that we've had Mummy Guy die in the third film and whatever, but honestly, who really cares at this rate? The third film gives you enough of the dumb action while still giving you some character stuff. Unfortunately, that does actually introduce Claire, but there's enough exposition to introduce who the fuck Claire is in the fourth one. Nevertheless, the fifth one, obviously, is where it's all dumb action. And it's beautiful. 95 straight minutes of dumb fucking action. It is perfect. It's what this fucking franchise should have been. Like, it's literally a film where after your first clusterfuck of shit, Alice wakes up to the goddamn bad guy from the previous film telling her as a bloody hologram dude on a screen. I thought he was like a dead hologram the whole time, but no, he wasn't. He, working with Ada Wong, gets Alice out of the facility, but not out of the facility, just out of the part that she was in, and now they have to go through all these different rooms to get to the exit and get the fuck out. But whilst that's happening, you've got Jill Valentine hunting her with a bunch of super soldier clones, and you've got other people, including the Black Hollywood guy, coming down the exit to come and like meet up with them and then to get the hell out of there. So like you've got two different teams of people, which is great because then you get different versions of action. Mostly because the other guys, I didn't really care much for them because they were like, their first blockade was a bunch of Russian zombies, and it wasn't great. But once they get out of there, the liquor shows up, and suddenly it's like, holy fuck, and it's amazing. That liquor is honestly the best, and them driving through Moscow with like bloody people shooting them like zombies and shit. I don't know, they're like zombie military guys, it's weird, but like they've got guns and they're shooting them, and they're in cars chasing them, but then the liquor comes through the fucking goddamn streets chasing after them. It is beautiful. I love it. But he doesn't just face off with them, he faces off with Alice as well. Twice. So, that's a lot of fun. But it's literally just go from one end to the other end. The main villain, is the Red Queen, which makes sense. Jill Valentine is a human villain. She's terrible, but the last fight scene is actually pretty good. The action is decently shot. The CGI isn't too over the top. Alice doesn't use her mind powers, which is great, because, of course, she doesn't have her powers anymore because the guy got rid of them. So she doesn't have she still has, like, the kind of a bit of the super strength and she doesn't have the best healing. So she's partially human, but, like, she doesn't have the mind powers, which is the good thing. Made her more human, which is also ironic because they give her a suburban clone. And so she even discovers this clone and discovers that this clone had a deaf daughter who is upstairs, who they save. But, like, she's deaf to the point where she can still hear, like, well enough because she's got, like, a hearing piece, which they do mention as we need to get her new batteries for her hearing piece. But also, she uses sign language and talks at the same time because she's learning to talk and kind of hear herself. And the version of Alice and her husband, being the mummy guy, talk the same way to her, using sign language and actually talking. Which makes sense. But then when Alice meets up with her, Alice just talks to her normally, and then she starts using sign language. I'm like, how the fuck does Alice know sign language? Anyway, look, that's as unnecessary as a question as how in all of these films do they suddenly have makeup on? Like, Alice, especially in the third film during the goddamn Mad Max style apocalypse, has makeup on to make herself look all glamorous and shit. But, like, dude, you're in the middle of an apocalypse. How the fuck do you look so good? But then Claire Redfield looks like hasn't washed her face in 3 weeks. Like, what the fuck is going on? It's one of those really shitty things in zombie movies where they make the Hollywood actors look like they've just come out of Hollywood, not like they've been in an apocalypse for 5 years. That's what I like about shit like The Walking Dead. They look grungy and shitty. It's great. It's got some realism to it. These films don't. But then at the same time, who really cares? They're Resident Evil movies. But yeah, so they fight, a lot of people die, they get out of the facility, and it's the girls. It doesn't look. The plot doesn't fucking matter. Like, it ends with them saving Jill Valentine. They kill off Michelle Rodriguez's evil clone. Literally, to the point of they're on the ice with her, and Alice, like, shoots the ice underneath her. After getting severely, she gets severely beat up by Jill Valentine, like, to the point of you can hear all these bones breaking and shit. But then she grabs the robot thing off Jill's chest, and then Jill is fine, but she's like, she falls unconscious or whatever. Nevertheless, that was like the obvious way to end that fight. But she fights Michelle Rodriguez after she's killed one of the guys, and she kills the black guy, and then but she keeps the other guy alive. The other guy being another guy from the video game, and so, which is so weird. Why did he need to survive? Literally terrible casting choice of a character again. Which is a terrible actor for it. And so they've shown Michelle Rodriguez's strength as she was able to break the guy's arm, and you had like an X-ray vision thing of like his arm breaking, but then you had an X-ray vision thing, and like that doesn't come up again until she kicks the black guy in like punches him in the chest, and you get an X-ray vision of it breaking his ribs and stopping his heart, and that kills him. And so she does the exact same thing to Alice. She doesn't break an arm or anything, but she punches her in the chest and it stops her heart. But Alice's heart just keeps beating still, like just manages to, because of course it's a dumb movie. Anyway, she beats up Michelle Rodriguez despite all these broken bones and obviously being pretty fatally wounded. Shoots the ice underneath Michelle Rodriguez. She falls in, but of course Alice had seen underneath the ice that there were zombies, which apparently was the actress's input. It was initially meant to be she just shoots the ice and Michelle Rodriguez falls into it and then drowns. But no, in this case, there's an army full of dead fucking frozen zombies under the ice who have been chasing them the whole fucking time. And it's hilarious. It's like, nevertheless, I'm pretty sure they're in like the Antarctic or some shit. But anyway, They get the fuck out of there. They go to Washington. And guess who's there in the White House? That's right. The bad guy from the previous film who got Alice out is actually a good guy. And I think Ada Wong is there, like, because we didn't actually see her escape, but we, like, one of the characters mentioned, like, she always finds her way out, so, oh, right, because the bad guys had captured her, so they have Ada Wong, they have Jill Valentine, they have the guy who should have died, but didn't, and they've got Alice. I will mention that the two Redfields were not in this movie at all. Like, Alice mentioned that she was with them and she didn't see what happened to them during the fight, and that was the end of it. So, the theory is that, well, they're probably dead. Or they happened to escape, but they're probably dead. Same as all the other people that they literally went to the boat to save are all probably dead. Because they're using clones in the recreations and shit. Because that's how they do it. They're like, oh, the big thing was to go around and to use these simulations and use clones in these simulations to demonstrate to different countries how this virus can work, and then be like, oh, to sell to America, we'd show it in Moscow, and to show it to you'd have Russia against America and the Japanese against the Chinese and whatever, like geopolitics and whatever. So there's an interesting idea to it all. But the last scene, they're at the White House. The fucking dude, Talisker, whatever his name is, gives her powers back, literally injects her with the same fucking virus shit, so she gets her powers back so she can heal quicker and whatever. And then they go to the top of the White House, and there's a whole army, like, of zombies and shit. Now, the funny thing is that this is the scene that I always remembered from the film, despite the fact that I never remembered the fucking film. But I remembered that scene of all the zombies, the big army, and then the creature flying at the camera, and the film ending. And you've got this impression of, holy shit, they're going to fight in the next film. I don't think there's anything else for me to say about this film. Retribution is really good. Worth checking out. The next film, The Final Chapter, is a 2016 film written and directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. Picking up immediately after the events of Resident Evil Retribution, Alice is the only survivor of what it was meant to be humanity's final stand against the undead. Now she must return to where the nightmare began, the Hive in Raccoon City, where the Umbrella Corporation gathers its forces for a final strike against the only remaining survivors of the apocalypse. My review, I gave it 1 star. My quote, the Trinity of Bitches, united in their hatred. Inspirations for this film, Mad Max Fury Road, Saw, Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows, bad editing, a major lack of fun, grit and dirt, the taste, smell and sight of Hollywood sewer system, Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. This finale is pure crap. Retribution is for me the canon ending, because who in their right minds would choose this as the end? And that's literally all I'm going to say about this film. It is a piece of shit. It's overcut to hell. The plot just doesn't... It's just shit. It's boring. It doesn't matter about who comes back as previous characters. The only one who does is Claire and the 2 villains from the previous films, because it doesn't matter. It's all contrived bullshit. It's crap. I want to talk about it, but I also don't, because it's so shit. So I'm literally just going to leave it at that. Don't watch The Final Chapter. If you're going to watch these films, leave it at Retribution. Just imagine that they had a really fun fight against this army of zombies, and that they all probably survived, or that they all probably died. The Final Chapter is a waste of your time. As someone who literally binged the last 2 in one night, with the hope that The Final Chapter would actually be a good finality, it isn't. It's not a good finality for the characters, for the narrative, for the world, for any of it. It's just a piece of shit. It's not worth watching. Read the Wikipedia if you really want to know what happens. Go for it. The twists are predictable as shit. Everything about it's predictable. The horror is predictable. It's cut to hell, so you can't even tell what the hell happens in any of the action or horror scenes. The characters are boring as crap. And it's not worth watching. So, yeah. That's all I have to say about that film. 1 fucking star. Yeah, fuck. I'm not done yet. I just remembered I have to do a fucking list of I do a list at the end of most of these to my ranking. So there's only the 6 films because I'm not going to count the other ones. Let's take a rank from number 6 to 1. In 6th place we have Resident Evil: The Final Chapter. In 5th place we have Extinction. I might as well read the stars out. So the Final Chapter was 1 star. Extinction has 2 stars. Then Resident Evil Apocalypse with 1 star. My justification for that is simply something happens in the movie. Extinction is more competent, but something at least fucking happens in Apocalypse despite how terrible the movie is. Number 3, we have Afterlife with 2.5 stars. Number 2, we have Resident Evil, the first one, with 3 stars. And of course, at number 1, we have Resident Evil Retribution with 3.5 stars. So, yeah. That's my review and ranking of the franchise. Honestly, if you want to watch it, 1, 2, 4, 5, go in that order. Skip the 3rd one. You get enough exposition in the 4th one to find out what happens. If you need to, if you're desperate to, read the Wikipedia page. It saves you 90 minutes of a waste of time. And don't watch the final chapter, because it's a piece of shit. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Hope you check out more Calm and Relaxed Talks. I don't know what I'll do next. I kind of just do it when I do it, and that's what it is. Goodbye. I'm going to sleep now. It's been a long, long week of movies. Bah! Did I get you? Bye.